Hey guys, Cryptodad here again, and I've received a lot of requests on how to use a passphrase with a cryptocurrency hardware wallet. So I'm going to show you how to manage passphrase configurations using the Ledger Flex. The Ledger Flex's touchscreen makes it very easy and convenient to manage passphrases. And the instructions that I'm going to give you work equally well with the Ledger STAX. The interface is very similar. So let's jump in. But before we do, I'd like to give you a word of caution that using a passphrase is an advanced operation. A lot of people have lost crypto because they have forgotten their passphrase. So if you're going to do this, approach it with caution and be rigorous about it. Don't forget your passphrase or you'll lose your crypto. But if you take advantage of these simple instructions that I'm going to give you, you'll be able to manage your crypto using a passphrase so that your holdings are safe and super secure. So let's jump in. So I have my Ledger Flex here, and it's already been set up with an initial seed phrase. And so I would refer to this configuration as the base configuration. Right there, I have not entered a passphrase yet. So what's going to happen when I add a passphrase or configure a passphrase is that the device will basically be in a brand new configuration, and it has a completely different master seed phrase. And from that master seed phrase, we can generate all of our accounts. So I want you to keep in your mind the distinction between the base configuration and the passphrase configuration. And I'll try to label those as we go along. And think of them as completely different devices, because logically they are. Right? So that's the first thing to consider. Also, you want to consider how you're going to manage your passphrase configuration. There are two general ways to do this. The first is to set up your device with your initial seed phrase, and then from the base configuration, add the passphrase, and then go into Ledger Live and configure all of your accounts and fund all of your accounts. That would mean that the only way to access any of your accounts would be from the passphrase configuration. Another way to do this would be to set up your device in a base configuration before you've added the passphrase and create some accounts in Ledger Live and manage those accounts in Ledger Live. And then, if you want a passphrase configuration, add the passphrase, go back into Ledger Live, and then configure those additional accounts in Ledger Live. So now you're managing two different configurations. The nice thing about this is that you've got plausible deniability. In other words, your base configuration can have some cryptos in there that would sort of act as a decoy for anyone that were to force you to reveal your crypto. And the passphrase configuration accounts would be invisible, and they wouldn't know about the passphrase configuration accounts. So I'm going to show you the second method as far as configuring Ledger Live. But let's get into how we access our passphrase configuration. So the first thing we'll want to do is choose a passphrase. Now I have an example passphrase written out here, and I've tried to give it a reasonable amount of entropy. Entropy refers to the how complicated basically the password is. Does it use uppercase and lowercase and numbers and special characters and that sort of thing. Now you also you want it to have as much entropy as possible without making it overly complicated. Remember, you're going to need to enter this passphrase whenever you want access to your passphrase configuration accounts. So you don't want it to be too complicated that it'll be really inconvenient to access, or that you might forget it or write it down wrong or something like that. So try to find a nice balance between entropy and convenience, right? Now, some people prefer to use for their passphrase maybe a series of words. They might all be in all caps, but you might have 5 or 6 words so that your passphrase is like 20 or 30 characters long, but it would be easy for you to remember because you've created a mnemonic device that has those words have some meaning for you. So that's one way to do the passphrase. Or you can do a single passphrase with entropy. It's up to you. But I would suggest that you write it down so that you have access to it. You could either store this in a secure location afterwards or commit it to memory. But you have to remember, if you forget your passphrase, you're out of luck. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to enter the passphrase. That's the easy part, actually. But let's take a look at my current configuration of Ledger Live. So here we are in my Ledger Live. You can see there's a portfolio balance. You can see that I have several accounts. In fact, I'm managing more than one device here. I've got my Ledger STAX and my Ledger Flex, and I label these accounts accordingly. So basically, right now, I'm managing 2 devices. When we enter the passphrase, my Flex device will basically become a brand new device. And when I add accounts in that passphrase configuration, we'll now have 3 different devices that I'll be managing in Ledger Live. So let me show you how that works. Before I add the passphrase, I'll show you how the hardware check works. The hardware check is a tool that we're going to use to verify our accounts. It basically verifies whether the account matches the device. So we want to be familiar with this little tool. So I'll take my device. I'll go into an account that I know is managed by this device, but we want to do the hardware check just to be sure. So basically we do a test receive. We'll go into the account, we'll hit receive, we'll hit continue, and then tells me the device is locked. All right, I'll unlock my device. All right, we'll hit retry. Now it wants me to open the Bitcoin app because I'm in a Bitcoin account. I'll hit open there. And then what's going to happen is it's going to query the device. And the device, if this is the same device that created this account, we'll get the hardware check confirmation. It shows me the receiving address on the device and on my computer screen. This is a confirmation that this device matches this account, right? This is going to be very important once we create our passphrase configuration accounts, right? So we'll hit confirm. And we're done there. Let me show you what happens when it doesn't match. So if I go over to the account over here that is associated with my STAX, not my Flex, and hit receive, watch what happens. All right, it's going to ask me to open the Solana app. I'll hit that. Goes into the Solana app, and boom, something went wrong. Notice the message here. Please check that your hardware wallet is set up with the recovery phrase or passphrase associated to the selected account. So this is a hint that an account has to match not only the device that's connected, but the device plus passphrase that's connected. So keep this in mind when we enter our passphrase. All right, so here we are, and we'll go back to the main screen, and to enter the passphrase configuration, we'll hit the gear icon here, and then we'll go to the next set of settings by hitting the arrow down in the bottom there, and then we'll go into advanced, and we'll choose set passphrase. Now there's a couple of ways to access a passphrase configuration. You can set a temporary passphrase, which means that every time you need to enter this configuration, you will physically enter the passphrase on the device. You can also set a passphrase and attach it to a pin. so that after you've entered the passphrase once, it gets saved and then is accessed by entering an alternate PIN. That's a different way of doing this so that you don't have to enter the passphrase every time, and you have two different pins depending on the configuration. I'll go ahead and do the temporary passphrase because it's a little more basic in demonstrating how the configuration works. So I'll choose set temporary. It gives us a message that if the device locks, you will need to re-enter your passphrase when you wake it up. So keep that in mind. That can be kind of frustrating. You can turn off pin lock on your device, but that lowers the security a little bit. Anyway, let's hit tap to continue. And now we've got the keypad. Notice how easy the Ledger STAX or Flex makes entering a passphrase. On the old Ledger Nanos, you had to use the two buttons to cycle through the letters of the alphabet or the digits or the special characters. It was really difficult to enter a passphrase. Now it's greatly simplified. All right, going from my written down seed phrase, and like I said, write it down so you don't get confused while you're trying to enter it, because you might screw up and enter the wrong seed phrase that you had in mind, right? So it's very important to be very detail oriented and rigorous about this, right? If you got a 170 IQ and you can, photographic memory, maybe, but most people, most people get confused when you're entering passphrases. So write it down and use the paper as your guide. So we've got uppercase S, the number 3, uppercase K, lowercase re. Right? It didn't take me long at all to get this entered. That's the real advantage with this touchscreen. We'll hit continue here. And also double check it to make sure it is exactly the one that you have written down. Because if you type this in incorrectly and then use this as your reference, in a couple months, you'll be stumped. You won't know what you did. So always double and triple check your entry. We'll hit continue. You'll double check that. You'll say yes, it's correct. It'll tell you if you forget it, you've lost access to the configuration, and then it wants you to enter the main pin of the device. All right, it's going to confirm, and then we're done. Now the device is in passphrase configuration, and if you're at the default after you set up, there is a lock screen. And if you're doing something and you're working and you don't touch your device for several minutes, the device will go to sleep or back to the lock screen, and you'll lose that passphrase configuration when you wake it up. So you might want to disable the lock screen. You can go into the setting here. You can disable your auto lock. The default is that it's on. And look here, after 2 minutes, if I'm doing something for 2 minutes, the device will lock down and I'll have to wake it up with my PIN and I will no longer be in the passphrase configuration. So you can set this to longer. If you want, maybe make it 10 minutes, or you can completely disable auto lock. But this is a little bit of a security risk because you run the risk of maybe leaving your device plugged in and walking away, right? And then it will be accessible. So always consider all of the possibilities when you configure your device, right? So I'm still in the passphrase configuration, and we're ready to create our passphrase account. So let's go into my Bitcoin account that we just did a few minutes ago and try that hardware check. All right, it fails. I expected it to fail because we are no longer in the base configuration. We have a passphrase configuration. Think of this as a completely different device, right? So what we want to do is go back to the accounts and add a new account. We'll choose Bitcoin. We'll hit continue. We're in the Bitcoin app. It's going to scan for any existing accounts. Well, of course, if we just entered this passphrase, there won't be any accounts associated with this. It's like a brand new device. So notice it only gives me the option of creating an empty account. We'll call this one, I can call it Flex PP or Flex Passphrase. We'll hit add account and then we're done. Now we can do that with more than just Bitcoin, right? You can do that with several accounts. You could say, okay, I want to have some passphrase protected Ethereum. It has me open the Ethereum app. All right, and so you can see that I've got two accounts that are associated with my passphrase configuration. Well, great, you say. Now what, Rex? Well, what we want to do is fund those accounts with some Bitcoin and Ethereum. We can go over to Coinbase and buy some Bitcoin, or we could simply transfer some of the Bitcoin in our device base configuration into our passphrase configuration. I know that sounds like a mouthful, but it's not as complicated as you may think. So basically what I want to do is grab the address of my Bitcoin account for my passphrase. I'll hit continue here. All right, it's going to ask me to open Bitcoin. It's going to ask me to verify the address. All right, but before I do that, I want to grab the address and put it in my clipboard. All right, now I can confirm. Now I know where to send my Bitcoin. So I could go over to Coinbase, buy some Bitcoin, and use the passphrase configuration account address. Right? I'm just going to go over to my Bitcoin Flex and send some test Bitcoin in there. We'll paste in the address of our passphrase account. We'll hit continue. I'm just going to send a small amount. Let's do 50. Whoops. Let's do $50 worth of Bitcoin. And we'll hit continue, continue. What went wrong? Well, what went wrong was I am still in my passphrase configuration, and this account is from my base configuration. I need to get back into the base configuration. So what I'm going to do is just hit the button, basically lock it, and then I'll hit the button again and enter my PIN. Now I'm back in the base configuration. So let's hit retry. See, now everything's copacetic. All right, that's our transaction. And we hold to sign. Off it goes. And then we can X out of this. Let's go back to the accounts. Let's go to that passphrase configuration. And notice the Bitcoin has just come in. So now if we go to Ledger Live, notice that we're managing base accounts here. And then we also have a passphrase account that's being managed by the passphrase configuration. You can only access crypto in this account when we have the device in passphrase mode, or when we have entered the passphrase. And not just any old passphrase. It has to be the exact same passphrase that we entered the first time. That's why we cannot forget the passphrase, or we will totally lose access to this account. So let's just verify one more time that this account is safe and secure and protected by our passphrase configuration. I'm going to go back over and enter my passphrase one more time. All right, I'll go into my settings. I'll go to the second screen. I'll go to advanced. I'll go to set passphrase. I'll choose temporary. and then I'll use the keypad to enter my passphrase. Same passphrase as before. All right, we'll confirm that we've got our passphrase written down correctly. We'll hit continue. We'll say yes. Go through this. Enter our PIN again. It configures passphrase and confirms, and there we go. Now we can get out of the settings. Now we are back in the passphrase configuration. Let's go back over to Ledger Live. All right, our transfer is not completely verified yet, but that's okay. We just want to do the test hardware check. Let's hit receive again. We're just confirming the account matches the device, right? In this case, our device is our passphrase configuration. Boom. Shows me the address on the device and on the screen. Notice that's a different address. Every time you make a deposit into a Bitcoin wallet, it's going to generate a brand new receiving address. That's how Bitcoin wallets work, right? So there's no reason to get excited about that, right? As long as we get a confirmation and we see an address on the device, we know that the hardware check has passed. So I showed you how to create a passphrase, how to enter it onto your Flex or Stacks. The interface is almost identical, and we've created an account in Ledger Live to manage our passphrase configuration. But you might be wondering, hey, wait a minute, shouldn't this be secret? What if someone forces me to sit down at my computer, open up my Ledger Live, and then they see that there's an account down here with a bunch of Bitcoin in it? They'll say, hey, give me that Bitcoin, right? So how do we keep our passphrase configuration safe? Well, after we've created the account, we can simply remove it from the portfolio. I'll do that with both of these. And you think, what did you just do, Rex? Didn't you just delete your Bitcoin? No, I did not. I simply removed it from being managed in Ledger Live. But it's very easy to re-add it, right? I'm still in my passphrase configuration. So all I need to do is go back to add account, choose Bitcoin, hit continue. It's connecting to my device, which is in passphrase configuration mode, right? It hasn't gone to sleep since we entered the passphrase. So we're still in passphrase configuration, and it finds it. Isn't that amazing, right? Ledger Live did not forget about it. It just was temporarily removed from the configuration. So I can re-access this account anytime I want, simply by entering my passphrase, connecting my device, and adding the account. So you can do it up here in edit account, hit remove from portfolio, boom, it's gone. Now you see it, now you don't. You can work day to day with your base configuration, managing your crypto, and then when you're ready to manage your passphrase accounts, just go back into Ledger Live, configure your device, enter your passphrase, hit add account, choose whichever crypto you're managing, whether you've got some Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana or Polkadot or whatever you've got in your passphrase configuration. All you have to do is go to add accounts and it will find it again for you. Hit add account and now you've got full access again. You can fund more into this account whenever you manage it, or you just want to like pull it up and like check it out, see what it's worth, whatever you want to do. Just manage it in Ledger Live, and when you're done, either adding or subtracting, right? You might want to sell some of it, whatever the case may be. When you're done managing it, just go up to the edit account up here, or if you're in account mode, you can right click it to get to edit account, remove it from portfolio, and no one but you is going to know it's there. And the only way to access that account is through the passphrase configuration. So once again, I have to stress, if you forget your passphrase, you will lose access to those accounts. You won't be able to get them back, even if you keep them in Ledger Live. You won't be able to send crypto out or manage that account at all if you forget your passphrase. Now, if you enter your passphrase and you go in and it's not working, stop and think, hey, wait a minute, maybe I entered it incorrectly, and go back and enter it correctly, right? It's easy to make mistakes. So that's why it's vitally important when you first create it, write it down or commit it to unfailing memory. Most of us don't have unfailing memories, so write it down. Store it in a safe location. Don't store it with your seed phrase. Don't store it in an easy to find location. Keep it safe and separate from everything else involved with your crypto, right? And that's the way you can manage the passphrase. As I mentioned, there's also the attach to pin method, which I didn't demonstrate, but it's very similar. You enter a passphrase and then you're asked to create an alternate pin, which you will enter, right? But I prefer to do the set temporary. It just is easier for me to wrap my head around. So that's the passphrase. If you have any questions about anything I did, please throw them up in the comments and I'll do my best to get them answered. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, I would appreciate it. When you subscribe, there's a little bell that you can click that will allow you to be alerted whenever I post new content. Once again, thanks for joining me and hope to see you again soon.